This is what baseball looked like in the 1920s. And this is what baseball looks like today.
Fastball hit to left. It is long gone.
The 1-1 pitch. Fly ball deep left field. Yes, sir, there she goes.
Whoa. Let's pause for a second here. Why does this baseball look so different in amount of what it looked all the way back? Baseball is one of the many huge entertainment industries in the United States, with it starting in 1869 after the end of a civil war and Ulysses S. Grant becoming president. Baseball was created during a midst of major reconstruction in the United States, with the reconstruction of southern states having to do with the 14th and 15th Amendment, along with women's suffrage being one of the most significant milestones in women's equality in the United States. The game first evolved in Europe in the 19th century after a flock of European immigration to the United States, and they took baseball with them. Well, unless you want to count this as baseball.
I'm not so sure if I want to side with you or not.
The invention of the sport was originally believed to have occurred in Cooperstown, New York, and was credited to Civil War hero Abner Doubleday for creating this assimilation. He was apparently one of the war generals during the Battle of Gettysburg. Before the name MLB, the league named this the National Association of Baseball Players, or the NABBP. Yes, for some reason, baseball had two words. This was operated as an amateur league until in 1869 the Cincinnati Red Stockings was founded and created as a professional team. So apparently the Boston Red Sox aren't original as we thought. Now, because of the professional teams being with the amateur teams and the pros making dough and the amateurs were making dust, the Players Association decided to make two separate leagues, with the National Association holding the pros in 1871. But it's since mainly focused on playing for yourself rather than playing as a team. Many players were jumping around teams based on who was offering more money, just like me on Chinese scam sites. During this, player contracts were thus created after the formation of the National League to hold different professional teams. The American Association was formed in 1881 as an independent professional league in Midwestern cities after the westward expansion in the US. Because the government banned the Chinese from coming in the country at the time, they wouldn't be allowed to join any teams and participate in the first postseasons being contested between the two leagues. You heard it here, folks. Even though the first recorded World Series was in 1903, the beginning of the postseason play fermented in 1882. Anyway, an interesting strategy that took place in 1919 in which 8 players in the White Sox intentionally played and lost on purpose. This is known as a Black Sox scandal, and they lost on purpose in exchange for money on a gambling syndicate led by Arnold Rothstein. Now, this strategy is used in the present day by team GMs in order to gain better draft picks, but I guess it's not during the Fall Classic and almost every team does, so I guess no one really cares. 1920s, the Yankees started their dynasty with their first World Series win in 1921 and won 7 more before the 1930s. This increased the popularity of the game even during the Great Depression in the US. Too many people were showing up to games, so the solution that one of the teams had was to put up fencing in the outfield. That move alone, in my opinion, was one of the dumbest ideas in history. Like, who cares about home runs? Really? Anyways, enough bantering. The home run was created, and some rando named George Herman Ruth hit 714 of them, ending the dead ball era entirely. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1936 after playing 22 seasons with Boston and New York, ultimately placing the curse of Bambino on the Red Sox from 1918 to 2004.
Fans have longed to hear it. The Boston Red Sox are world champions.
Then Japan was like, and got the US in World War II. Ted Williams, one of baseball's icons with Babe Ruth, actually got drafted into World War II along with many other famous athletes. He went on active duty as a naval aviator in 1943. He also served in the Korean War in 1952, cementing himself as a baseball and American hero. Black people surprisingly were so not allowed to play despite the war, until in 1947, a totally insignificant person changed the course of history. Jackie Robinson, on April 15, 1947, broke the color barrier after signing to the Brooklyn Dodgers and marked the end of racial segregation in professional baseball that had regulated black players to the Negro League since the 1880s. Fun fact, his middle name Roosevelt was a nod to President Theodore Roosevelt. Relocation was very popular during the 1950s, with the most notable one, the Brooklyn Dodgers. They migrated to Los Angeles. But what a lot of people don't know is during this relocation, a huge neighborhood and community known as Chavez Ravine was filled with Mexican families who would buy property and build within Los Angeles. The majority of these residents were forced out of the cities to build public housing, and Mexican residents were given little to no compensation for their own properties, and were also told that they could live in public housing once the project was built. But ultimately, the public housing was deemed a socialist plot amid the Red Scare of the politics in the 1950s, and the city's plans for public housing project fell through. Instead, violent evictions in the 1950s cleared way for Dodger Stadium. Every now and then, there are protests at Dodger Stadium which represent the Latina culture and the amid racism in the city. This was in the middle of what was known as the expansion era in the States. Teams were relocated left and right due to a migration to western and southern cities. So the Boston Braves, St. Louis Browns, Philly Athletics, and the New York Giants and Dodgers all moved to southern or western states. In the 1960s, more teams would be added so that a third league could form, and those teams would be the New York Mets, Houston Colt 45s, San Diego Padres, Kansas City Royals, Montreal Expos, and the Seattle Opioids. And speaking of Houston, in 1968 saw the world's first dome stadium. It was a multi-purpose stadium which started a huge trend in the United States, with teams getting new stadiums which were known as ashtrays, domes, you name it. They were also using synthetic turf, known as Astros turf. In the 1970s, pitcher Nolan Ryan, the 8-time no-hitter and current strikeout leader, was serving in the military during the Vietnam War, but fortunately he did not go into battle and was sent back to America's pastime. Looking at Nolan, he probably could have hugged baseballs at the Vietnamese and still would have probably killed him. Also featured in the 70s, Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's home run total, Pete Rose had a 44-game hit streak while also for some reason being the team owner, and showcasing some of the ugliest uniforms to date. Like, what the heck were they thinking?
This just in, you
Matt
are
just
looking
mentioned
at
we have a breaking
obviously
news story
very
to tell you
disturbing
about.
live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we just got unconfirmed reports this
On
morning.
September 11, 2001, terrorists flew 2 planes into the World Trade Center, claiming the lives of 2,996 people, changing the world forever. This canceled baseball in New York for 7 days, but when games resumed, there were numerous tributes and moments of silence held in honor for the victims. Players and fans displayed American flags, and patriotic songs were played before and during the games. Baseball served as a means of bringing people together and provided a sense of community. The sport played as a symbolic role in the nation's recovery, which was never more evident in Game 3 of the World Series in New York against Arizona, with President George W. Bush's ceremonial first pitch at Yankee Stadium, where it became a powerful moment of national unity. Moments like these you just don't see in the world. They are scary, but coming together as a community no matter what background was evident in the crowd. And with the crowd chanting USA, at this moment, there was no American League or National League. It was baseball. It was America. It was America's pastime.